you all just for being here first and foremost. So I appreciate you being here, and really it's a reflection on you wanting to spend some time to invest in yourself and think through some ideas of how we can get better. So I never take it for granted when I get to be in front of a group of commission-based salespeople, because I'm one of those too. So I know the value of your time. So hopefully this is going to be a really good use of our time. We're going to dig into some good concepts. But really, I would challenge you to self-reflect. So I'm going to talk about a lot of ideas over the next hour or so. And what I found is you'll get the most out of this if you're able to accomplish a couple things. Number one is the more present you can be. So I know the nature of your business is insane in terms of, things vying for your attention. I know, especially right now, the market is crazy, right? And so you have probably your phone going off every 5 seconds. But really, the more you can be present to take as much as you can out of our time together, you'll get the most out of it. And then the second thing is kind of what I alluded to, which is the more you can really kind of take the concepts that I'm going to talk about and reflect on yourself, right? Apply them to yourself so that you can, apply them as we continue on past today. So I'm going to dive into our content for the day, and I am going to share my screen. I've got a little PowerPoint presentation. So we'll go ahead and share that. And can you all see this? Heads nodding. Okay, good.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So one thing that I will tell you is we are going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So I know that's challenging in a virtual environment, but if you can, like Adonis mentioned, if you can have your camera on, would love to see you. And then I will be throwing questions out. Please feel free to engage. So unmute yourself, talk with me. I don't want to talk at you guys for the next hour, and I don't want to talk just at myself. So if you guys can engage, that would be awesome. We'll have way more fun if we do that. So we're going to kick it off. The whole concept of what we're talking about is this idea of habits of top performers. And really where that comes from is our experience just working with a lot of top producers, and honestly, a lot of people that are not top producers. And so as Adonis mentioned, our company's been around for 165 years. And so you can imagine we've worked with a lot of people. We've actually worked with several Keller Williams offices. We do a lot of sales training for companies like Google and Verizon. So we've kind of seen it all. And what I'm sharing with you today is a couple of ideas that we've pulled just from the best to the best. We've kind of taken, what are best practices? What are the secrets, if you will, even though they're really no secret. But I'm going to share those with you today. So before we even dive into our content, I'm going to have y'all partake in a little exercise with me. So I'm going to have you text me just to kick us off. So go ahead and pull out your phone and text me your name so I know who's texting me. And then your favorite emoji or your favorite GIF. So text me your favorite emoji or your favorite GIF. Whoever can make me laugh the hardest wins this little exercise. Or you can text me whatever emoji you have felt, since being in quarantine. So these are my favorites. The Chrissy Teigen face is my favorite GIF, if you guys have seen it. And then the salsa dancer is my favorite emoji. So go ahead and text me. And there's obviously no real point to this exercise, except that hopefully you all are okay with having a little fun with me this morning. Is that okay? Having a little fun? We're good. I see Robert nodding his head. Love it. So that's one of the things that we really believe in, is providing laughter and having some fun, because we know that the nature of, the businesses that we're in, the nature of the business you're in, some days are more fun than others, right? Some days it's kind of hard to find the fun. And so we're going to do our best to focus on the fun. Okay. So I'm going to kind of dive right into this. That's a good one. Adonis, I like that. Okay. I'm going to dive right into our content for the day. And so what I want you all to think about, and this is a session where you may want to jot down a couple of notes. So if you have something to take notes on, that may not be a bad idea, totally up to you, but I would encourage it, is we're going to kind of kick it off by thinking through goals, right? What are some of the things that you want to accomplish? And you've probably been challenged with that question before. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? But I want you all to really think about what's maybe one goal that you want to accomplish, whether it's this quarter, this, next 6 months, this year. What's maybe one goal you want to achieve? Because this first part that I'm going to dig into, I want you to really think about it in relation to a specific goal. So think of a goal. It can be a personal goal, a professional goal. Does anybody want to share? Anybody willing to share?
I will. My goal is to start making 6 figures.
I love it. In what?
As a real estater. Well, I'm hoping at the end of my first year. I'm probably like 2 months in, 3 months in tops right now. Okay, so yeah, by the end of my first year, hoping 6 figures. I'm a little bit behind, but the game is not over yet. And you know what they say, games have been won in the second half. So
it's very true. Awesome. Okay. So the goal, right? 6 figures within the first 12 months. Cool. Does anybody else want to share? It can be a personal goal, professional goal. Don't be shy, guys. I don't bite.
I want to get better at roller skating.
Get better at roller skating. Okay, cool. Well, how do you measure better at roller skating?
I look at the people that can do amazing things on their feet and see that I can't do that yet, but I'm getting closer.
Awesome. So one thing that I would encourage, hopefully you all are thinking of a goal, even if you didn't share, is the first thing I would encourage is getting really specific with your goal. Okay. So one thing I love about Robert's goal is he has a specific number in mind, and it's within a certain time frame, right? Because a lot of times people come to us and they say, I want more. I want to make more money. I want to have more time. But until you actually put a number on more, it's impossible to create an action plan to go get it, right? They say that a goal without a plan is just a wish. And you have to have a time frame in mind, again, so that you can create an action plan to go accomplish those goals. So specificity is key. We tell our coaching clients all the time, the more specific, the more terrific. So whatever your goal is, I encourage you get really specific. And so the first kind of piece that we're going to dive into together is this concept you see on the screen here of controlling the controllables. And part of the reason that I'm digging into that first is because that's really foundational to accomplishing our goals. You know, what we've seen working with so many individuals over the years, over just the last 10 years, we've coached over 16,000 people one-on-one. And so what we've seen is a lot of times, just because we're human, right, we tend to get caught up sometimes in things that are outside of our control, right? We spend a lot of energy, effort, time, and emotion on things that we can't control. And especially in a year like the past year, especially in a market like you're seeing now, there are so many things that are outside of your control. Would you agree? Most things, right? Most things are in the category of influence or accept. And so what we want to do as we try to achieve those goals is when we look at top performers, one of the things that kind of separates them is they intentionally spend more energy, time, and emotion on things they can control. And so we're going to dig into just 3 controllables. These are kind of the building blocks of your business. This is where you want to focus your energy, is in these 3 areas. And so as I dive into this, I want you all to think about this again in relation to your goal. Okay. So the first area, the first controllable, if you will, on the road to your goals is your tactical skill set, right? So you've got the technical component of what we need to learn. So of course, in the real estate business, this would be everything related to the business, right? This would be understanding, you know, what's going on in the market. This would be understanding how to do a listing presentation. This would be understanding how to, you know, put an offer together. So you definitely need to know those skills. And the good news is you guys are in a good spot, right? KW is excellent at training people how to do these things. But this is also all the skills that are required for interacting with other people, because you all are in a people business. You know, you're not selling homes to robots, you're selling homes to people. And so this would be things like negotiation skills, right? Communication skills, things like setting proper expectations, and then all the sales skills that we really need to hone in order to move from, you know, maybe an average producer to a top producer. So for example, do you all ever have to guide people to a decision? All the time, right? That's closing. Those are closing skills. Do we ever have to make good first impressions?
of course, always.
Always. That's actually a skill set, believe it or not. Sometimes people think either you're a people person or you're not. You can actually improve on that skill set of making good first impressions. Do we ever have to overcome objections?
All the time.
Yeah, never. All the time, right? There's a skill set involved there. So these are all technical things that we can intentionally focus our attention on, right? This is a controllable that we can move the needle in. And a lot of times what we see is that people, especially when they're new, they tend to spend a lot of time in this area, right? Learning the business, learning skills. But often what we see is as we get a little bit more seasoned, sometimes we take the foot off the gas in this area and we stop intentionally growing in our skills. And so one thing that I would challenge you to think about is when it comes to the goal that you have in mind, whatever you jotted down, what's a skill that you can intentionally spend some time on to improve and hone and tweak? Okay, so that's just one piece, one controllable is our skill set. The second building block really to achieving our goals is our motivation, our drive. So you have the skill and the will. And for those of us that are in a commission-based environment, this is kind of important, right? We have to be motivated or else we're not going to be successful. For those of you that are, you know, part-timers and want to eventually become full-time, Well, you have to have extra motivation to do that, right? Because how easy is it for us to kind of get a little bit complacent sometimes because the bills are paid. And so this pushing yourself outside your comfort zone intentionally is what it's going to take to accomplish our goals. But there's days for all of us where we don't really feel like doing the work, right? Okay, good. I see heads nodding. It's not just me. So what are we going to do when we don't really feel like it? What's going to push us when we don't really feel like it? Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Anybody have any favorite speakers on this topic? Any favorite motivational speakers that you listen to or podcast or read?
I do not, but I should. No, not at all.
It's all good. Anybody else?
I mean, I know of that guy with the big hands. He was in Shallow Hal.
Yeah.
Remember that guy? What was his name? Something Robbins?
Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Tony, yeah. I mean, he was huge at one point. Remember, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
He's still pretty big.
He still is. Yeah. So there's a lot of really good ones out there. So this is one thing I encourage people all the time is, you don't have to be a Tony Robbins fan, but finding something that does resonate with you, because there's days for all of us where we have a tough day. And if we're going to really accomplish our potential is always going to be outside our comfort zone. And so sometimes that external motivation can be really powerful. We're going to dig into a little bit later that external motivation only lasts so far. So you have to have something more powerful than that. But, thinking through staying motivated. One of my favorite motivational speakers is a guy named Jim Rohn, classic motivational speaker. And Jim Rohn used to say, if you take an idiot and you motivate him, what do you have?
A motivated idiot.
A motivated idiot, right? And he said that ain't real effective. Because really the idea is we have to have both. We have to be looking for new ways to push ourselves, but also be looking for new ways to grow. And, people, Zig Ziglar, another kind of classic motivational speaker, he used to say that people criticize motivation because it doesn't last. And he said, neither does hygiene. That's why bathing is recommended daily, right? So what are we doing every day to push ourselves in this area? And what we see is even top performers, even people who've been in the business a really long time, sometimes their skill set is really great, but their motivation is all over the place. And so their business is really reflective of that, where it's very up and down. Like we see a lot of businesses that are like roller coaster, really feast or famine. 1 month, someone's killing it, and the next month they're falling off. And so really maintaining consistency here is the key. Okay, so that's second controllable. And then the third thing we want to focus our attention on to get closer to our goals and really accomplish our potential is our systems. And this one is probably one of the biggest areas of opportunity that we work on. This is one of the biggest reasons people in your business hire us. Is a lot of times we have people that say, hey, I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm fairly skilled. I'm pretty motivated, or else I wouldn't still be here. But sometimes I feel like I'm all over the place, right? So systems is things like your time management, your follow-up, right? Not letting things fall through the cracks. Like, have you ever had where you've got a lead and you maybe call them 1 or 2 times, nothing really goes anywhere. And 3 months later, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. You call them back and they're working with somebody else. Anybody had this happen before? Yeah. How painful is that? It's not fun, right? So creating better systems for organization, for efficiency. This is the whole concept of being able to accomplish more, but do it in less time. Okay. And for most of our clients, again, this is a big area. Like one of our clients, Barrett Ketchen. So Barrett's actually a mortgage originator. He's in Hoboken. And when I met him, he was doing about 250 million in production. Big hitter, right? He was like top 20 in the country. And he said, I'm not actually looking to grow my business. I don't have time for more business. I need help organizing my business. I feel like a chicken with my head cut off. I have a 2-year-old at home that I never see. I need help getting this under control. And now, people may not be in that boat of 200 and whatever million as a producer, or, even as a real estate agent, you may not be there yet, or you may not even want to be there. And that's okay. The point is, through creating better systems and structure and organization and scaling, over the last 4 years, we've been coaching him. He went from 250 to last year, he did almost 900, and he's working fewer days a week. And so again, as you think about the goals that you have in mind, have you ever thought, well, that's a good goal, but I don't know if that's really achievable because I just don't have the capacity. And so if you created better systems, it creates more capacity. So the key that ties these all together is this little word right in the middle. It's all about developing the right habits in these 3 areas. Because without the right habits, none of what I'm talking about matters. I can teach you every skill. Again, you guys get a lot of very good training and development at Keller Williams. I could be the most motivational person ever. I could be like the female Tony Robbins, Tonya. I could be Tonya Robbins, right? But unless you all develop the habits of implementation, what's going to happen 2 weeks from now?
You're gonna go right back to before.
Right back.
We're right back where we were, right? Because we're human, and human beings are habitual creatures. We fall back into our patterns of behavior. And so if we want to make new habits, if we want to get closer to where we want to be, often we do have to create new habits. We have to replace habits that aren't working for us with ones that are going to help us get closer to where we want to be. The problem is, for most of us, it's hard to do that because it's easy to fail ourselves, right? Or it's easy to kind of get complacent, or it's easy to say, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. And so the whole way that we do this, where we partner with individuals, is through everybody's favorite thing, accountability. Yay. How many of you woke up this morning? You're like, I can't wait to be held accountable. Okay, Adonis, good. Yeah, probably nobody. But if we're honest with ourselves, right? How many of us would say, yeah, if I did have a little more accountability, I probably would be a little closer to my goals, right? And so the way that I always describe kind of how coaching works, which I know you all are familiar because KW does a lot of that, is it's kind of like having a personal trainer for your business. You know, if I want to get in better shape, I know I need to eat better and I need to probably go work out, right? But if I'm paying a guy a couple $100 an hour, I'm more likely to show up to the gym. And if I show up consistently over time, what ends up happening?
You get your goal.
You get results, right? This is not rocket science. Yeah. And so that's kind of the same concept of partnering with a coach. So I'm going to dive in, team, to just a couple of the habits that we've seen of top performers, kind of some of these best practices I'm going to share with you. I'm just going to share 2 of these for the sake of time. And as I go through this, I want you to really think about them, again, in relation to your goal, and ask yourself, this is about you. This is self-reflection. What I'm going to share with you is not rocket science. You probably already know these things, but I would challenge you to ask yourself, even if you know to be doing these things, are you actually doing them consistently? And if not, why not? Right? What's getting in the way? And then just kind of ask yourself, if you had a little accountability, do you think that would help? Do you think that would get you closer to where you want to be? Okay. So I'm going to dive into this. And these habits we've kind of chosen based off conversations that I've had with Adonis and feedback from Steve, and kind of what would be the best messaging to bring to you guys. And these are habits that we have seen of the top performers we've worked with. So a couple little disclaimers, again, not rocket science. And then finally, if I were to, we are big believers in being practitioners of everything that we preach. And so our team, I have a team of about 150 coaches. We love what we do. So you will hear me talk about coaching. Some of you that'll resonate where you feel like that could be a good fit for you to really elevate you to the next level. And for some of you, it's definitely not going to be a fit. We know it's not a fit for everybody. We're just another option. So we've worked with a lot of people at KW. Some people love MAPS or Bold or Ignite, and some people want something different. So we're just another option. If it does resonate with you, I'll share with you at the end how that works and how you can get paired up with a coach if you'd like to learn more about it. But we'll kind of save that for the end. Fair? Okay. And then, as I mentioned, we believe in being practitioners of everything we preach. So we don't tell our clients to do anything that we don't actually do in our own business. And so if I were to tell you, I've got a client of mine, Brendan lives in Connecticut. He's looking to buy a new house, and you go out and you help him buy a new house, maybe list his old house. What would you hope Brendan would give to you? Christina, I think I see your mouth moving.
A referral?
Yes, referrals, right? This is the lifeblood of our business, or it really should be. So I'm in the same boat you all are in. I'm in commission-based sales too. Yay. So assuming I do an okay job, I'll actually ask you for the same thing at the end, but I'll walk you through a couple techniques as I do it. So if we have time, I'll share a couple good ideas that you guys can implement to get more referrals, okay? So I'm going to dive in. 2 habits I'm going to share with you just for the sake of time, and I'm going to breeze through these pretty quickly. But the first one that we have found of all top performers we've worked with, and again, think about this in relation to yourself, self-reflect on this, is we have seen time and time again that top performers make a habit of finding a way rather than finding an excuse. They make a habit of finding a way, not an excuse, because we all come up with excuses from time to time, right? We all do it. We come up with reasons as to why we aren't hitting our fullest potential, why we maybe haven't hit our goals, why we're maybe not on track, why we're not where we could be, even if we're doing great. And most of the time we don't even realize when we're doing this, because we've all been doing it our entire lives. Our entire lives we've been rationalizing behavior because we've all got this little invisible enemy that sits on our shoulder. You guys recognize this little guy? And he speaks little rationalizations into our ear all day long. And we call this guy Mr. Mediocrity. And even though he's so tiny, he's invisible. How big is his mouth?
Really big.
Huge, right? Like, think about it. What are some of the things he's whispered in your ear, even over the last week, to kind of lull you into complacency? And my point with this is that top performers, it's not that they don't hear the same things in their ear, right? It's not that they don't think the market is crazy. It's not that they don't run into challenges, right? Trying to help buyers find properties and bidding wars and all this kind of stuff. They do too. The difference is they recognize when they're thinking that way, and they find a way to knock this little guy off their shoulder, even if they have to do it 200 times a day. Like, they really believe where there's a will, there's a way. If it's going to be, it's up to me. They take control over the things they can control to move closer to their destiny, rather than looking for something else to blame or waiting for somebody else to go first. And the reason this is so powerful is because it's literally the way that our brains are wired, is whatever you are telling yourself is what you will end up creating, right? A lot of times people have seen like The Secret or heard of The Secret, and it sounds wooey. Really, it's actual neuroscience. Is you train your subconscious mind. And so the way that this works, and the reason this is so important, is because there tends to be this loop that our thought processes go in, right? It actually starts with the words that we tell ourselves. So self-talk, you all have heard of self-talk. A lot of times people think that that's rah-rah and they're not into it, but really we're always affirming something. I was talking to a team member actually of mine, and we were talking about positive affirmations. And she said, no, that's not really my thing. I'm not into that. And I said, huh, okay, well, tell me a little bit about that. She's like, yeah, I don't do affirmations. And as we talked through it, I kind of helped her recognize you do affirmations all day long. Your affirmations just happen to be negative, right? We are constantly affirming things to ourselves. All an affirmation is what you are telling yourself is true. And so my challenge to you, the question that I would ask you is, what have you been telling yourself over the past 6 to 12 months? What have you been telling yourself? Because whatever you're telling yourself is likely to become your reality. We have a saying in our organization that nothing is ever as good as it sounds, nor as bad as it seems. And nothing's going to last, right? Everything's seasonal. So whatever this is, this too shall pass. If it's great and awesome, guess what? Take advantage of it, because this market's probably going to pass at some point. If it's kind of not so great, don't worry, this is going to pass. But the idea is, what are you telling yourself? Because that will be your reality. And so this is one of those areas that we do dig in really heavily with our coaching clients, is challenging people to think about what are the affirmations you're telling yourself. And you can literally rewire your subconscious thought process. You can rewire your mindset through the words that you are telling yourself. Because again, everything starts with words. It starts at that self-talk component that leads to how we see ourselves, and how we see ourselves directly influences what we do. And then what we do influences our results, right? So it really becomes this loop. Does this make sense? You with me here? Okay. So that's number one, finding a way and really challenging yourself to think about, what are you thinking? What are you telling yourself? Like, if you were to write down all the thoughts you've had over the last week and put them on a piece of paper, what would that look like? Would it be super inspiring? For most of us, the answer is no. So you got to really think about, okay, but that's what you're creating. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is that the top performers, every top performer we've worked with, this one's a big one, is they make a habit of being proactive. They make a habit of taking immediate action, of not hesitating. So I want y'all to give yourselves a rating on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay. Reactive versus proactive. So a 10 is someone who's like on fire. Like, you plan out your week every Monday. You wake up on Monday, it's like TGIM. You're so excited the week is starting. You have your goals laminated and plastered in your shower. You got your positive affirmations written on your mirror. You have prospecting time built into your calendar. So you time block, right? You time block, you execute on that plan. That's a 10. A 1 is somebody who has really good intentions, who has a pretty good idea of where they want to go and how to get there. But for whatever reason, it's often stuck in reactive mode. Like, everything's urgent, everything's a fire, you know, everything's an emergency. You kind of have a plan sort of sometimes, or sometimes you just wake up in the morning, it's like, what am I going to do today? So that's a 1. So I want you to give yourselves a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 of where do you find yourself on most days? And you don't have to share your number. This is just for you to self-reflect, but I would challenge you to actually pick a number, because there is something pretty powerful about being honest with ourselves. Okay, we all have a number? All right. So I want you to think about this for a moment. If we're not operating at a 10 on most days, what is that costing you? And notice I say what and not how much, because for some of us, it is money, a lot of money. That's why you guys are in this business. You can make a boatload of money doing what you're doing and control your income. But for others of us not operating at our best every day, the cost could be a goal or a dream, right? It could be the lifestyle we want to create. It could be that vacation home. It could be, you know, putting away money for kids' education. It could be all those things that we want to accomplish. And then I would say for most of us not operating at our best, the real cost is just guilt. It's kind of that guilty feeling knowing I'm not hitting my fullest potential. And one thing that I know for sure is that none of you here came here to be average or mediocre. You wouldn't be here if you did, right? You all came here to really be excellent. And so if you're not operating at your best on most days, I would challenge you to really ask yourself, what is it costing you? And does it give you a gut feeling that says, you know what? I don't want to keep going down this path of mediocrity that I've been on. Like, I want to make some changes and get on track with what I know I'm capable of. One thing that we've seen so often, just working with so many individuals, so many companies, is something that we call the most expensive invisible cost in business. There's something that is robbing people of their fullest potential. It's invisible. It starts with the letter P. Any ideas?
Procrastination.
You got it. The most expensive cost in our business is pushing stuff off until later. Procrastinating. I would say this is probably the most expensive cost in our personal lives too, right? It's pushing off the difficult conversation that we need to have. It's pushing off the workout that we need to have. It's pushing the stuff off that we know we should be doing. There's a difference between being reactive and taking action, right? Two different things. By a show of hands, how many of you would say that you know you procrastinate in one area of your life or another? Okay, some of us might raise our hands later. Some of you will get my joke later.
I just got it. That's funny.
I got it.
Right? So, but what you got to be careful of is there's different types of procrastination. The most dangerous one is something that we call creative avoidance. And the reason this one's dangerous is this is the easiest one for us to justify to ourselves. Creative avoidance is the idea of like busy being busy, right? It's filling our day with stuff that needs to get done, but is not necessarily income producing. So for example, this might look like, okay, I know that I need to block out time to prospect for new business, right? We all do. Whether it's calling FISBOs and expos, whether it's calling our sphere of influence, whether it's just calling on referrals, whether it's networking, like we need to be focused on getting new business, right? And I got to block out time. I have to be intentional about that. So let's say next Monday, I have a block of time carved out from 9 to 11 that I'm going to intentionally do that. Y'all with me? Okay. And it's like 8:45, 8:55, and I'm getting ready to do this. And I'm like, okay, let me just go, let me get some coffee because I need energy, right? So let me go get some coffee. Okay, now I'm ready to go. And water, because you know, coffee is dehydrating. Let me go get some water. Okay, now I'm back, coffee and water. Now it's like 9:05, 9:10, and I just had coffee and water. Now what? Anybody?
Now you gotta go to the bathroom.
Yes, I have to go to the
Make
little
it
girl's room. So then I'm going to go do that. So now it's like 9:15. Okay, but I still got, you know, over an hour to do this. And it's like, all right, who am I going to reach out to? I don't know. And I start thinking about who I should reach out to or what I should be doing, or should I hop on Facebook? That's a good idea. And then I get into a rabbit hole of Facebook and right. Or, you know, okay, I've got a couple of people I know I want to reach out to. What am I going to say? I don't know what to say. Or maybe I have a list of people and I look at it and it's like, oh, I feel like I talked to him last week. I don't want to bug him too soon. And then it's like, oh, Betty, I don't like the name Betty. That was my girlfriend's name in high school. And right. And we start cherry picking. And are you all with me here? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, an email. Oh, I need to answer email. I need to answer email. It's so important. Or text, the text came through. It's urgent. Everything's urgent. And then what happened with that plan?
You didn't do it.
Out the window, right? Can anybody relate to this? Yeah, some of you might be like, she's been watching me. And so how do we get past this tendency? Because we all have this natural tendency to kind of procrastinate and push things off. Is we have to be really intentional about focusing on our income producing activities. And you all know what these are, right? It's money-making activities. We have to carve out the time and protect the time to do them. And so again, my challenge to you is, even if you know to do this, ask yourself over the last 2-3 weeks, How well did you do? So one of the things that we really encourage our clients to do is to have intention. It's to map out a plan. Now, does the intention and the plan always come to pass? No. But this is an example. So Mike is in the real estate business. This is an example of his ideal week. And some people look at this and it gives them anxiety. Okay. So don't get too overwhelmed, because the point is this: your ideal week doesn't have to look like this. But my question is, do you have one at all? Because there's a couple of things that we know for sure. If you don't know what your ideal work week looks like, you're never going to have one. And if you don't carve out time to prospect for new business and reach out to new people, you're never going to hit your fullest potential. Does this make sense? Y'all with me here?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So the good news is these are both controllable. We can all do them, which means we can all be top producers. There's hope. Yay. This is supposed to be motivating.
So we're here.
It's not supposed to be like, ooh, I'm bad at that one and I suck at that one. Hopefully you'll see even minor tweaks, right? Even a little change, but done consistently over time can have a really big impact. Okay, so I want you all to, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. I'm gonna give you a couple little techniques that you can implement to hopefully close more business if we would like that. We all want, okay, I see Robert.
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. So before I do that though, I want you all to take a deep breath. Okay, this is the yoga portion of our time together. And I want you to just pick one of these two. If you had to pick one that you could focus on, commit to just for the next week, which one would you pick? Circle it, star it, jot it down, write it on your hand.
I will pick number 2. Take action now.
Take action. Awesome. Anybody else? Nicole, what'd you pick?
I will pick find a way, not an excuse.
So there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you pick is the right one for you. But my challenge to you is whatever you picked, actually do it. Okay. Fair? Okay. So I'm going to switch gears. Like I said, we're going to breeze through this next part pretty quickly just for the sake of time. But I want you to kind of think about this kind of from a 30,000 foot view. So I'm going to dig into some details, but I really want you to think about this in a bigger picture. And what I mean by that is what I'm going to cover is a sales cycle, right, of developing a new client or closing a deal. And for a lot of you, this is going to look familiar. The concepts you've learned before, the names might be different, but the concepts might look familiar. But this is really how I want you to think about it, is when you are working with a prospect or a client or a lead, are you winging it or are you bringing it? In other words, are you walking into those conversations and being super intentional about guiding the conversation? Or are you sort of going with the flow and schmoozing and you're people personing and right? Because often what we see is a lot of people get into your business because they're good with people or they have a big network, but then they don't ever really take the time to hone these skills that help them guide a conversation. And if we are the person that's responsible for guiding somebody through this home buying or selling process, then it's actually our responsibility as the professional to guide the conversation. Does this make sense? So as I go through this, there's 7 steps to this process. Okay, I'm going to breeze through all 7 and spend a little more time on one of them. But as I go through this, I want you really to ask yourself, what areas do you know you do a really good job in? But maybe what are some of the areas that have been lacking? Or if you were to focus a little attention on a couple areas, where could it make a really big difference? Okay. So I'm going to walk through this sales cycle. The sale we'll use is getting, working with a buyer or getting a listing. Either one doesn't really matter because the principles are the same and the psychology is the same. Okay. So let's say, again, I'm going to use the example of one of my clients, Darren. So Darren is a financial advisor in the city, does very, very well. And Darren is listing his home because he just bought a new one. Okay. So let's say that he hasn't listed his home yet. So let's say that you want that listing. So the first step of any sales cycle is what we call pre-approach. All this is doing your homework. So before you reach out to Darren, right, it's finding out some information about him, right? Maybe what are his motivations if the person referring him knows. But we don't want to just know the obvious things like where does he live? How much money might he make? Is he employed? Does he have a family? You also want to find out some information that's going to help you connect to him. Does this make sense? Okay, because when you guys are reaching out to potential prospects, are you the only real estate agent that's reaching out to these people? Often you're not, right? So what's going to separate you from everyone else You might want to know something like he loves Boston sports. So Darren loves the Patriots and he's a hockey player. He loves the Boston Bruins, right? Something to connect with him. Does this make sense? Okay, so that's our first step, is do our homework, be a professional. That leads to actually reaching out to him. And one thing that you all maybe have heard before is, has anybody heard of the 7-second rule? Okay, they say you've got 7 seconds to make a first impression. So you have 7 seconds to capture somebody's attention or kind of lose their interest. And have you all noticed a lot of your favorite clients tend to be like you? Similar personality? Yeah, well, guess what? Not everybody is like you. And so if you want to tap into all the other potential businesses out there, you have to learn how to adapt. This is one of those areas we love working on with our clients, because we've all heard of the golden rule, which is treat people the way you want to be treated. But next level, if you want to move from kind of average producer to top producer, is what we call navigating. We've written a couple books on it. It's communicating with people the way they like to be communicated with, right? Because there's basically 4 behavior styles. One of them is what we call the fighter. That's that person that wants you to get to the point. The entertainer is your people person. So if I'm approaching an entertainer, I want to spend a lot of time building rapport. If I try to do that same approach with a fighter, how do you think that goes over? Not well. Yeah, it pisses them off, right? Does this make sense? So again, self-reflect. Could we get a little bit better at identifying, okay, what is this person's style and how can I make sure I adapt to them? Because that leads to our next step in our process, which is asking good questions, discovery, fact-finding, probing, questioning. We want to make sure we are asking good questions. Then we can present solutions. So if we're working with, this would be like our listing presentation, right? If you're working with a buyer, this would be actually showing them properties. That leads to actually closing. So we have to ask for the business or ask for a call to action. We have to ask them to actually move in the process. We don't always get what we want right away. Sometimes we have to overcome objections, right? And then whether we get business or not. So let's say you try to connect with Darren and you actually don't get Darren's business. What should you still ask him for, regardless?
A referral.
Yes, we should always be asking for introductions to people. Always, 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 always. So we know this is super important, right? We know that the goal, the end game in this business is to build a referral-based business. Hopefully, right? You guys all in that boat? Okay. So if we all want to be in this boat, question for you, for those of you that were not on vacation the last couple of weeks. So if you were actually, putting in some work and some effort into your real estate business the last couple of weeks, how many of you over the last couple of weeks proactively asked for and received at least 10 good referrals? Anybody get 5?
Yeah, 5, I think. I got 5.
Okay. 2? 1? Okay, Nicole, good. Okay. So here's a good self-reflection piece, right? If we know this is so valuable, why are we not getting more of these? The number one reason we're not getting them is we're not asking, or we're not asking effectively, right? Not everybody's going to have someone for you, but if we're constantly asking, we'll run into the ones who do. If we don't ever ask, we're way less likely to receive them. Does this make sense? And the reason these are so much better than FSBOs and expos and cold calling is because this referral can give you the pre-approach, right? They're the one that can tell you, hey, if you're going to call Darren, talk about, the Patriots or Tom Brady or Bill Belichick or whatever, right? Make sense? Okay. So when we look at this process, there's actually one piece of the puzzle that's the most critical to closing the business. So they're all important, of course. And again, I would challenge you to ask yourself which one of these or which 2 of these could you get a little bit better at? But there's one of them that's actually the most important. If I'm going to connect you to Darren, which one do you have to be a master at in order to get his business? And for the sake of time, I'm going to tell you the answer. I'm going to lead you to the answer. Okay. At the end of the day, why do people work with you?
Because they like you and trust you.
Like you.
They like you and they trust you. Is that logical or emotional?
Emotional.
It's totally emotional. Okay. So stick with me here. People work with us because there's an emotional connection that happens. What's the number one thing people like to talk about?
Themselves.
Yes. Themselves. Have you ever sat down next to a stranger and they start spilling their life story to you and you haven't said anything, and 10 minutes later, they're like, oh, I feel like I know you so well. Haven't we had this happen? There's an emotional connection that happens when people feel heard. But guess what? Most of us got into this business because we're people persons. We like to help people. We're friendly. We like to connect. And a lot of times we like to talk. And so what we end up seeing is a lot of times when we're working with our coaching clients, we'll do a lot of shadowing or role play, is a lot of people, even top performers, spend way too much time talking, way too much time selling themselves, talking about their knowledge and their background and their expertise. And let me tell you about what Keller Williams offers and all the things we can do for you and how we can market your house and stage it. And like way too much talking. But if we know that an emotional connection happens when they talk and they work with us because there's an emotional connection, what do we want to happen?
Let them talk.
Yes. How do you get them to talk more?
By asking questions.
Yes, you got it. So the most important piece of any cycle is your discovery phase, asking good questions. Unfortunately, even people who know this in theory often are not doing an effective job. And when we don't do an effective enough job of asking the right questions, you end up hearing a lot of, oh, well, I'm just going to wait, right? This market's crazy. I'm just going to wait. Oh, you sound great, but I'm all set. I'm already working with somebody. Oh yeah, you sound awesome, but the last agent I tried to work with wasn't good. I'm going to try to list my house myself. Oh yeah, can you just follow up with me? Oh, I love this. I'm going to have to go talk to my mom, my dad, my goldfish about it, right? Have we heard this? And when you spend all this time with people and then you hear these constant excuses, how does that make you feel? Yeah, it doesn't feel good, right? So if I could teach you a quick technique that would actually help you convert more conversations into something, would that be helpful?
Very helpful.
Okay, so I'm going to go through this really quickly for the sake of time. I'm going to give you the abbreviated version. So everything I've covered so far, we dig into whatever areas that you think you could focus in on, of course, in coaching. And then this is something we really dive into with clients, is how to be a more effective question asker. The difference between top performers and everybody else is most of the time you will see top producers talk the least. They're exceptional at asking good questions and understanding the psychology of why people make decisions, okay? So this is just one example, one technique that we work on with clients. It's called CLASP. And all it is a series of questions to help get them talking. So the C just stands for currently. Find out as much about their current situation as you possibly can. So find out all about the house that Darren is living in, the house that he's thinking of listing, you know, tell me about it. How long have you been there? Where is it? Okay, current situations. Have you worked with an agent before? Who was it? How'd you find them? Then you want to find out what they like about their current situation. They have to like something or else they would never have been there. Even if someone has worked with an agent, what would you like about them? Right? If we're calling expires, for example, we always assume they hated their agent. It's not necessarily true, right? They had to like something about the person or else they never would have worked with them. So what did you like about working with them? This right here, though, is your moneymaker. So what would you alter? What would you change? What would you do differently? What is the gap? This is what we have to identify, because if you don't identify a need, if you don't identify some sort of pain point with someone's current situation, they have no sense of urgency to change anything. If Darren's thinking about listing his house himself and you don't help him realize how painful that will be to list his house himself, he's not going to have an incentive to work with you, right? What we tend to see is a lot of times, so let's say Darren's thinking of listing his house himself, which he is actually, okay? A lot of times what we see is a real estate agent will come into that conversation and they'll try to sell him on why it's better to work with them instead of asking good questions to help him realize it's worse not to. Do you see the difference? It's a little shift, but the psychology of it makes all the difference in the world. You with me? Okay. The S stands for signer. All this is making sure you got your decision makers present. So if I'm talking to Darren, it's like, hey, by the way, should we be involving Jill in this conversation, or is this just something you're handling on your own? We want to find that out early so he doesn't say it later, right? And then the P is just paint the picture. So repeat back the whole conversation. And then here's your key. You got to ask for a commitment. So it might sound like, well, hey, Darren, it sounds like currently you got this place that you want to list. This is what it's about. This is how long you've had it. This is, you know, why you're thinking of listing it. What you really like about the idea of listing it yourself is that you don't have to pay the commission, right? But what we realized is if you do it yourself, this, and this negative effect is going to happen. And so if I could help you make sure that you have a good experience, but also make sure you don't have that bad experience, would you give me an opportunity to earn your business? Would you be open-minded to talking through what it could look like if I list it for you? And if you've done this properly, what do you think he's going to say to you at that point?
He will hire you.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, at least to hear you out. Does this make sense? Is this helpful at all?
Very helpful.
Good. Are you guys going to use it?
Definitely.
Yes, I will.
It works well if you do it right. The cool thing is you can use this series of questions all the time, because this is just the psychology of a sale is in this process. So whether it's a listing, working with a buyer, whether it's, you know, trying to just get somebody to change behavior, this works if you do it right. If you don't do it right, you kind of sound weird, but if you do it right, it works really well. Okay. So I'm going to transition and switch gears and start to kind of wind us down a little bit. So I want to do a little exercise with you all on the power of perspective. So I'm going to show you a slide, and I just want you to count the number of F's that you see on the screen. F like Frank. Okay. You have 5 seconds to count the F's. Ready? Go. All right. How many did you count? You can hold up your fingers.
4.
4, 3, 3, 3. What? How many, Nicole?
3.
Okay. So why do I do this silly little exercise? Well, first of all, notice you all saw the same screen, but we had some different answers. So just like our time together today, you all heard the same thing because I'm one person talking, but you probably all heard something a little bit different. And so what I always encourage people to do is just take the best and leave the rest. Take one nugget from today that applies. Everything else, leave it behind. Okay. The other reason I like to show this little exercise is because the actual answer is 6. But the reality is that sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us. And so having outside perspective can help you see things that you're not seeing. Often, honestly, one of the biggest things that as coaches, we help people see is their own potential, right? And so that is the beauty of having kind of an outside set of eyes. So have you guys had a little fun with me this morning? Anybody?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Yes, we have. Thank
Did we
you.
learn anything that we can use?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. And then at this point, how many of you do think it would be a good idea to at least learn a little bit about how coaching works? Anybody? Okay, cool. So I'll breeze through this really quickly just for the sake of time. I always tell people, team, this is not like, again, this isn't rocket science, okay? If something I said resonated with you and you thought it was helpful, coaching would probably be a good fit. If it didn't, don't sweat it, okay? But don't overthink it, okay? We're just a different option. Again, we've worked with a lot of people at KW that have done MAPS or Boulder Ignite or whatever. And sometimes this just resonates a little bit differently. So why do people get into coaching? A couple of the most common reasons that I'll just go over really quickly. Number one is to increase income. So this is probably the most common reason people get in coaching is they do want to make more money. You would have to do something really bizarre with your coach not to increase your income. So through helping you to get more referrals, close more business, some of the things we talked about today, just implementing some of those techniques to help you increase income. Number two, most of our clients want to do increase income, but they don't want to have to spend more time to do it. So helping you to be more efficient with the way that you're working so you can actually get more done in less time. And then one that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but we end up seeing a lot on the back end is breaking some belief barriers. So these are just a couple of examples of some Keller Williams clients. Chad Goldwasser increased income. So while he was in coaching, they ended up becoming the #1 Keller Williams team while they were in coaching. He attributed a lot of that actually to time management. Nate Denby, you can kind of see there, stronger vision for excellence in personal and professional life. And then his business doubled, I think, in the first 6 months or first year of coaching. So obviously increased his income. And then this is one of my favorites just because I coached Jonathan. He's in Jersey. And for him, he was pretty new to the business. So he said his biggest concern was the, financial commitment to getting a coach. Because he was in $50,000 worth of student debt. And so he's like, but I realized I was spending way more than that on Zillow leads. So what did I have to lose to try to learn some other things? And you can kind of see here by halfway through his production had tripled. He'd gotten completely out of debt. He got married. He's now just had his second baby. But for him, I think the most powerful thing, if you see at the end, he said, I've learned how to better communicate with my wife. We work through problems now rather than fighting over them. And for only the second time in my life, my dad told me he's proud of me. And so just the personal development that he saw was really the biggest change. So those are some of the biggest reasons people get coaches. What's included? It's a one-on-one conversation with your coach. So this is not group training. This isn't a group setting. This isn't a set curriculum. This is truly customized to you. So we pair you with a coach. It's like a Match.com profile. We have you take a behavior assessment, fill out a questionnaire to put you with the right coach for you. And then you've got a one-on-one conversation basically every other week. We do have full curriculums of content to work through with you. So everything about building the business, and then an entire curriculum around leadership. So if you do move into leadership, or even if you just bring on an assistant or a transaction coordinator or whatever, we help you do that. And then also help you to delegate effectively and scale your business. We know people learn in different ways, so we try to hit every learning style: audio, video, and tactical. And then this is one of those keys that helps us to actually see progress and know that we're making progress. So we actually have an online portal where you and your coach identify what your goals are. So, right, Robert, it would be, okay, I want to make 100,000 in the next 12 months. And then literally we would reverse engineer the activity you need to do to hit that goal. And then you get to log in and track your activity. And so it's a really cool tool that helps us hold you accountable, helps you hold yourself accountable, but also helps you and your coach see where the growth areas are, right? Like if we can see you're making 1,000 calls and nothing's happening, well, then we know what to work on with you. But because numbers don't lie, we can think we're doing the right things all day long, but numbers don't lie. And so we're able to really track your progress here through this portal, which is kind of cool. So that's what's included. How do you know it would work for you? Like I said, not for everybody. 3 things we look for, 3 things really we require for you to work with us. One is you have to be coachable, for real. You have to actually be willing to take advice from people and implement new ideas. This is probably one of the biggest difference makers, I would say, for people that see results right away and people it takes a little while longer. The more coachable you are. I had a great example, Maria. Maria's up in Connecticut. She got into coaching, had only been in the business 2 months. So brand new, but she's like, I know I'm going to need help. The only listings she had was her sister. Okay. And within 3 months of coaching, she had 8 listings, but she's also one of the most coachable people I've ever seen. She would literally get off with her coach, go do what her coach told her to do. Okay. So coachability is huge. Number 2, you got to be committed to the process, not for life, but for at least 12 months. We do work with you through every season of your business. Most of our clients stay in coaching well past that, but you do have to at least be committed to make some change through every season. And then the last one is you do have to be ready for change. Most people want to see change, but we don't want to change because change can be uncomfortable and painful, right? And so it's really asking yourself, are you completely satisfied with where you are? Because if you are, don't change anything, right? But if you know you want things to change and you're willing to be coachable and committed, then we know coaching is a great fit. If you're not sure about any of these 3 things, no problem at all. We just know coaching with us is not the right fit. Fair? Okay. So the question at this point for a lot of us is probably, what's the investment? Anybody wondering? I know money's not an issue for any of you. That was a joke. Just kidding. Okay. Has anybody priced out? Well, you guys know the price of coaching because you have internal coaching. So you guys know most coaching does start at around $1,000 a month. Is pretty normal for coaching. And I think that's the cost of, is it Ignite is 1,000 or something around there, right? Maps, Bold, one of those is around that price point. So these are just a couple examples of clients that we've worked with and what they've paid. Pete did Building Champions. Dustin did The Core, which is more mortgage specific. Rich Conlon, he hired a old top producer to help him. Tony Robbins, you can coach with Tony for the low price of $1 million a year. That is a real price tag. So point being, it can be pretty pricey, right? I think one of the reasons we have had a lot of people get involved with us is we did want to make it a little bit more accessible with price point. So we just believe in it and figure if you want to get a coach, you should be able to get one where it's still an investment, but it needs to be, right? If we don't have skin in the game, we usually don't. It's like the personal trainer. If I don't pay the guy, I'm probably not going to show up. But hopefully it's a little bit easier pill to swallow. And so our coaching programs start at $599 a month, $600. So for most of our clients, they tell us, okay, that's reasonable. If I close 1 or 2 deals, it covers the cost of coaching for the whole year. And if we can't help you get 1 or 2 more, we're doing something wrong. There is an activation fee your first month, just $176, but I do like to let people know that it does exist. And then if you are already top producer status, so if you're already earning $250, $300 and above, we do have a program for that, which is elite level coaching for top producers coached by top producers. So that's in a nutshell what coaching looks like. Actually, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. Sometimes we hear, these are the most common objections we hear. I usually address them really briefly. I'm not going to spend too much time here. The reality is if you want to invest in your business, go for it. If you don't, that's okay too. If you can't, that's okay too. But really the question is, are you coachable, committed, and ready for change? Because if you are, we know that coaching works. But this is one of those things where it's a return on investment, right? This shouldn't be a cost. It really should be an investment, which you should see a return on as long as you're willing to do the work. And then we hear this a lot too. But again, if you want to make the investment, you can make the decision. So at this point, how many of you are at least open-minded to the idea of a coach? A couple people? Okay. Well, I'll invite your fearless leader here. Speak a couple words, Adonis, on anything you took away, your thoughts, input, why you guys even had me today.
No, just a lot of the things that you say, it coincides with the kind of training we have here at Keller Williams. We know about 4 different personality types, even if we call them something different. And yeah, no, there are so many people that have spoken highly of you. One of our friends, one of our KW family members over in Scarsdale, New York, Amanda, she's always singing your praises. So we know what we need to do in this life. We know that coaching is going to get us to the promised land, and there's only so much we can do on our own. So that's all I really have to say. Dana, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you spending this time with us all.
Thank you. Yeah. So last thing, and I'll kind of wrap it up, team, is we know at this point, everybody's in one of 3 categories. So a 1 is somebody says, yes, I know I want to coach. How do I get started? Like, what are the next steps? Amanda's awesome, by the way. I love Amanda. So Amanda's the team leader in Scarsdale, or she was at the time. And she was just super, super coachable. We coached her for a year. And then I think in that year, she became the #1 producer in the office. So she's great. So a 1 is someone like that. I know I want this. How do I get started? What are the next steps? A 2 is somebody who says, I definitely know I want this. I just have a couple questions around it. And then a 3 is somebody who says, hey, today was great. I learned a lot, but no thanks, right? Coaching's just not for me, or it's not for me right now. That's a 3. So what's that? Okay. So do me a favor and just text me whatever category you are in. And that way, if you're a 1 or a 2, I'll schedule a one-on-one with you, a follow-up with you, and we can kind of talk through any questions you have or next steps. Okay. So everybody do please text me a category though, because it does help me identify how to follow up with you. So again, a 1 is yes, what are the next steps? A 2 is definitely yes with questions. Don't send me a 2 to be nice. Okay. You don't have to send me a 2 to tell me you got value today. You can be a 3 and I still love you. I love 3s. Okay. If it's not for you, totally cool. Save yourself the time, save me the time. Okay. A 2 is a genuine yes with questions. And then a 3 is no thanks. But do again, please text me your category so I know what category you are in. Awesome. Bobby, love it. Thank you.
Dana, what happens if you're already in coaching? So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, if this, some people get multiple coaches, like Teresa Mack, she's in KW out in California, and she had a KW coach. I think she was doing Bold, I want to say. And then she also did coaching with us. So some people do both, but if you're all set, you're all set. You can text me a 3.
yes. Okay, thanks.
You can text me a 3. So yeah, but again, please do text me. So 1, 2, 3, if you are a 1 or a 2, or if you want a follow-up conversation, then I will schedule some time with you and we'll talk through kind of next steps and any questions, like I said, any questions that you have.
Dana, there's a question in the chat from Emiliano. He said, how many sections per month included in the coaching program?
Okay, so it's 2
sessions per month.
Yeah, it's 2 scheduled coaching calls with your coach. So basically a call every other week. And then you always have access to your coach. So what the content you're getting though is usually you'll have, you'll work through content with your coach, and then there's video series attached also. So usually every few days you're getting like a 2 to 3 minute video just to remind you to implement what you're doing in coaching. The tracking tool you can use daily if you want to. So our coaching program is intentionally trying to tackle every sort of learning. So there's a daily component, a kind of, every few day component, and then a bi-weekly component. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, great. Awesome. And then I'm starting follow-ups with people starting at 12:30, and I do them on the half hour. So 12:31, 1:32. Nicole, do you have a preference as far as what time? Oh, you said you're already good. Yeah. You're muted. If you want a time.
I'm sorry, I'm coaching currently. I just had a few questions. That was a number.
Sure. Can you connect at 12:30?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call you at 12:30. Awesome. Thank you. Again, text me your number so I know what category you guys are in. Nicole, I'll connect with you at 12:30. And then last thing for you, if you guys do want to stick around, if you want to hop off, feel free to hop off. Last thing is if you do want a couple ideas around referrals, I can share a couple of ideas with you around referrals. So these are some of the best tips that I can give you on referrals. So I'm going to demonstrate to you by asking you, and then I'll show you a couple of techniques. So you do have to participate in order for this to work because I have to show you, okay? So this is what I am looking for in my business is anybody that you know who's in a leadership position of commission-based salespeople. So like Steve was referred to me by Pam. Pam's a real estate agent who's in coaching with us. I think she's at Berkshire Hathaway, or maybe she's Sotheby's. So she referred Steve, right? Because he's a leader in a leadership position. So anybody that you know that leads commission-based salespeople, and then what you can do is you can go to their contact card. Who likes to play games? Anybody like to play games? Yes. Okay. So here, we're going to play a little game here. Oh, Alexa likes to play games too, because she's talking to me. So we can play Wheel of Fortune or Price is Right.
Price is Right all day.
Price is Right all day. Okay. So when you're on Price is Right, showcase, or before the showcase showdown, you get the Price is Right and you get called down and then you guess the price and you get on stage and you do the little dice game. And then before you get a chance to go to Alexa, stop. She thinks I'm asking her about games. Before you go to the showcase showdown, what do?
You have to spin the wheel.
To spin the wheel. Yes. Okay. So we're going to spin our wheel. So go to your contacts in your phone, and just like the Price is Right wheel, spin your wheel. Okay. And then whatever letter you landed on, look for people with that letter name. What I'm looking for is anybody who's in a leadership position of salespeople. So again, they could be a broker, they could be a team leader, they could run they could be a branch manager of a mortgage company, they could do title, insurance, like Allstate, State Farm, they could do financial advising, GM of a car dealership. If you have any friends that you know that run small businesses and have sales teams, those are great too. So you can go ahead and click on them. And then what you can do is share their contact. So this is also a really good technique you can use if you're talking to people over the phone or virtually, or even when you're sitting across from them, you know, and you're like, hey, who do you know? And oh, my friend, you should reach out to my friend. It's like, cool. Is your friend in your phone? Awesome. Go ahead and pull them up, click on their name, share contact. See that? Are you raising your hand, Bobby? No.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I'm on the phone. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, so you can share contact. So that's the first thing is asking for who I'm looking for is somebody who's in a leadership position. So if anybody shares at least a couple of names with me, by the way, I'll send you a little gift if you share at least 2 names. And then I can demonstrate to you a couple of techniques that you can be using when you're asking for introductions. Awesome. Emiliano, can you talk at 1 or 1:30?
1:30. Yeah, 1:30 is fine.
Okay, perfect. I'll connect with you then. Okay, so go ahead and look through your contacts, see if there's anybody that you know that leads a team of salespeople, and then I'll show you a couple of other techniques if anybody sends me somebody. If you don't, then I can't show you my other techniques, but I will tell you a couple of techniques I've already done. Number 1, just ask, right? Because it can't hurt to ask. And number 2, instead of asking for who might benefit from what I do, notice I asked for somebody who is a category of a person. So I didn't say who might need a coach or want training. What did I ask for? Anybody? Did you guys catch it? Nicole?
No, I mean, you're asking the questions like 1, 2, or 3, what, where do you fall? So you point the question back to us.
Oh, sure. But I'm talking about with referrals.
Oh,
So,
it's referrals.
yeah. Did you catch who I'm asking for? Anybody? Okay, well, I'll ask again. So I'm looking for anybody that you know who's in a leadership position, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So anybody that you know who leads commission-based salespeople, the reason why is because I reach out to them and I offer them trainings like this for their team. So anybody that you know who leads is in a leadership position over commission-based salespeople, real estate, mortgage, title, insurance, car dealerships, you name it. So I'm asking for a category, someone who's in leadership. I'm not asking who might need me. Do you see the difference?
Mhm.
A lot of times when we work with real estate agents, what they're asking people is they're saying, hey, who do you know who's looking to buy or sell their house? And it's really hard for some random person off the street or even someone you're working with. I don't know who's looking to buy or sell their house unless I literally just had that conversation with a friend, right? But you guys know the type of people who are looking to buy or sell. They fit into certain categories, right? Just had a baby, just relocated, new job, just divorced, just empty nesters. There's categories of life stages that you can be asking for introductions to potential clients rather than who might need what I do. Does that make sense? You guys see the difference? You'll tend to get a lot better responses when you ask for categories instead of interest level. Okay, so like I said, if you do have any people, send them my way. If you send me at least 2, I'll send you a little gift in the mail or digital. You'll get to choose your prize. And then other than that, you are free to go. So if you haven't texted me what category you're in, please do so. 1, 2, or 3. 1 is yes, 2 is yes with questions, 3 is no thanks. And then you all have my number now. So if I can be a resource at all, please do let me know. Nicole, I'll reach out to you at 12:30, and then Emiliano, I'll reach out to you at 1:30.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Thank you for the time.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Dana.
You guys are welcome. Have a
Thanks.
great weekend.
You too.
Thank you, Dana.
You're
Pleasure
welcome.
chatting with you. Pleasure meeting you.
You too. Go get your 100,000.
I will. And I will. And bucket list, price is right for me. So you'll see me one day spinning the wheel.
One of my best friends actually he's one of our coaches. So we were roommates in college. One of my best friends, I helped bring him on board to become a coach. He's amazing. He won a car on The Price is Right.
Oh man, that's literally really no joke bucket list for me. Oh my God, that's
Well, you got to go out to California.
there you go. That's what I gotta exactly. There you go. See,